the way my partner and I came up in the industry was always choosing the things that were the biggest and scariest to try to accomplish. The most valuable thing any of us have is our time. So how do you want to spend yours? Well, look, all art is an evolution over what became previously.
Yeah.
And there's, I think, the famous quote that all art is theft.
Yeah.
I would say that all art is evolution with, perhaps elements of theft. Things don't stay static. They progress, they change, they evolve. You have to remain really, really curious about all of it.
Welcome to Venture Ahead. It's a series of podcasts recorded by IE University. These were recorded in Porto Alegre in Brazil at the 4th edition of the South Summit. We got to speak to people who had done keynotes, former IE students. We got to speak to people who were on panels, people that we just met and found interesting. Do this at each of the South Summits because it's a great opportunity to talk to some of the people. So thank you for getting this far. Listen to the end and let us know what you think. Hello everyone, this is Joe Haslam, professor at IE Business School, and we're here in Porto Alegre, Brazil, in the 4th edition of the South Summit. Really happy to have attended all 4 editions, and what we're doing is just bringing some people who've given keynotes to the podcast studio and to try and kind of get some, flesh out a bit more their thoughts and get some more intimate views on some of the things that are on their mind. So I'm delighted to be here with Alex. How are you today, Alex?
I'm great, thank you.
Okay. And tell us about your keynote.
Well, my keynote was about immersive technology and specifically how we're using it to bridge the digital and physical worlds together. So, in essence, trying to correct, let's say, the paradigm that we have now with digital, which is very isolating. The way we're accessing digital information can really sort of remove us from the context of physical reality. It can be, a very separate experience. We're looking at technology as a bridge to essentially integrating the digital layer of our lives with the physical layer, whether that's for education, entertainment, research and development, whatever the case may be.
Okay, and how did you get into this?
I got into this through my work in film, specifically in visual effects. Visual effects is, in essence, blending the digital world with the physical world. You're doing it for the sake of a film, but a lot of the technology that you have to bring to bear to do that in terms of understanding the physical world around you, understanding like where a camera is positioned, being able to track that, being able to track actors so you can replace parts of them or change their costumes or whatever. There's just a lot of technology that you learn about, but you're essentially using it for movie making. My partner and I, about 12 years ago, became very interested in trying to see what else we could do with those same tricks.
Mm-hmm. There's a sort of a line about comedy, what's comedy? And I'm sure you've heard these kind of things. And they say comedy is sitting beside Neil Armstrong at dinner and not asking him about the moon, So thinking can I go through this whole conversation of asking you about the Oscars, because that would be comedy. But I want to try and get that out of the way,
sure,
as quickly as possible. Okay,
yeah.
So tell me what it was like, and was it like you expected, and how did you feel?
It was not like I expected, because I didn't think we would win. We were going.
Everyone says that.
Yeah.
How could if you're nominated, how can you?
Well, sometimes you're the favorite and sometimes you're not. I mean, I thought, we were going up against some really large films with tremendous work, and, sort of big visual effects spectaculars with budgets for the visual effects that were, maybe 6, 7, 10x what we had to do with Hugo, which was more of, a prestige film, Scorsese film. But as the night wore on, and I think one of the first awards presented was cinematography, and our cinematographer, Bob Richardson, won. Then our production designer won, and we started feeling like, okay, the visual aspects of the film are being very well received.
There's a Simpsons joke, goes like, who rigs every Oscar night? Isn't it?
Yeah. So we felt, we started feeling, I think, a little bit more, I wouldn't say optimistic, but a little bit more, interested to see what the outcome would be. Um, when we did win, I think I went into sort of a blackout state that lasted until the morning after. I don't have vivid memories of things.
You fell on the floor, but felt.
I was like, I just need to get up on the stage.
Yeah.
I need to not trip over anything. I need to grab that statue and take it backstage and get it engraved before they take it away from me.
Where do you keep it?
It is currently on a shelf in my living room.
Okay.
And we keep one of them in the office.
Okay.
To impress our visitors.
All right. So they you get one each, or is that how does it work?
We all get one.
Yeah.
And it's very nice. There's 4 people on the award for visual effects, and on your statue they put your name first.
Oh,
which is very nice.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, and have you had any old friends contact you and say, "Always believed in you, Alex," or you've had any of those kind of moments?
I had a lot of texts the day of the nominations and a lot of texts the night of the win.
Yeah. And how did it make you feel? Were you proud of all the labor? Was worth it? You know, did you feel? I won't get all LinkedIn on you. Were you humbled, or what were you?
I was humbled to be one of the 4 who got to accept on behalf of a crew that was over 800 people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of responsibility to represent them and their work well, to represent their work at the Visual Effects Bake Off with the Academy, make sure you highlight all the wonderful things they've done that you feel are deserving of the honor. So it felt very gratifying to be able to do that sort of on behalf of this larger team that it took to execute.
And what has it done for your career?
It's done a lot in terms of, I think, opening doors. There's some credibility that comes with that. Here we are talking about it, and it's been 14 years, I think, or 13 years since I won. So it's sort of an everlasting bit of credibility. More meaningfully, I think it probably helped create the opportunity to start Magnopus, which is the company that I have now.
Yeah. Okay. And did you get Oscar? Is it come before your name? There's Oscar nominated or Oscar winner or something.
Only in investor decks.
Yeah. But look, that you listen. If I had won an Oscar, I would mention it the odd time.
Yeah. Okay. You don't get to put it after your name like an Esquire of a law degree or something. Although I'm sure some people do. They do if you're starring in a film, they'll put it on the poster.
So as it turns out, I've climbed some pretty high mountains, and I'm not going to drop names about them, but sometimes, you get these kind of moments where people go you're behaving like you've won an Oscar or something, and then you can get to go, I have. There, yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so now we've got the Neil Armstrong bit over with. Okay, we got it on tape. Like a good guy. Get the first take in, right? So then talk to me about I guess the future, and are you excited about the future? Are you frustrated about the future? Are you right where you want to be?
I'm excited about the future. I think I see very clearly a direction it could go that I like. I think we're many, many steps from getting to that place. But as far as what I work on and where I think it's headed, I think the future is very exciting.
Okay. And that's going to mean what? It's going to save lives, world peace? What's good about it?
I think what would be good about it is, like I said at the beginning, or maybe it was before recording, I'm not sure, but I was talking about trying to change the paradigm where you have this very information-rich but experience-poor worlds that we tend to live in when it comes to digital. I do think there's a path to changing that. And the reason I think it's ultimately important is I think the more isolated we become by digital media and digital platforms, the less likely we are to make good decisions that are for the betterment of us all.
Right. So they could mean anything: health, education, personal.
Yeah. I think that the more we can experience, right now, we have access to all of the information, and it didn't used to be like that.
Yeah.
Now, I know how we interact with that and how we understand it and contextualize it, I think is extremely.
So you are in a position that you hear someone who's kind of available, and you've got to be good. a dinner invite? And what's your pitch to them? Why should I come work with Alex?
Why would you come work at Magnopus with me?
Yeah.
Because we truly are an innovative place, and we will let you be your best self.
Lots of people say that.
What's that?
Lots of people say both of those things.
It's fair enough. But I think our track record proves that in our case, it's actually true.
Okay. So, I mean, do you put effort to make people grow in the organization? How do you keep them fresh? How do you, those kind of stuff?
One thing I can offer, especially to younger people starting out, is we don't put a ceiling over your head. It's quite the opposite. If you show a shred of ability, especially as a leader, we will promote you very quickly, and we will probably throw you in deeper water than you are prepared to swim in.
Yeah.
However, if you get into trouble, we will also step in, and there is a life preserver.
Yeah.
But the way my partner and I came up in the industry was always choosing the things that were the biggest and scariest to try to accomplish. And as a company, we tend to act the same way. Yeah. So while it's not for the faint of heart, it does present a lot of opportunity for growth and advancement in a very fast period of time.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of success stories along those lines.
So, how do you, when you I guess you still have crunch mode, right? You still release products.
Sure.
So how do you manage creative people?
Crunch can be unavoidable, especially when you service customers the way we do, because your schedules aren't always self-determined. Sometimes you're having to fit into somebody else's. The best way to manage it is to actually, as you mentioned, it's not just to say you're going to avoid it, but actually avoid it. And do that for as many projects as you possibly can, so that when you arrive at one where it does require extra hours and extra effort, it becomes the exception, not the rule. And I think, over the past several years, done a very good job of making that the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
But the other reason I think that we tend to be well prepared for it, aside from people being well rested in general, is that we are working on projects that the people who work with us tend to be extremely passionate about. And that passion can carry you through a lot. If you're really determined to output something incredible at the end of the journey, then that can be a big motivator. What we have to do as sort of managers of all that is be respectful of that passion and not trade on it. We can't bank on that carrying people through crunch. We still have to try to avoid it. But it is a benefit when you look around and the entire team is just really fired up about what it is that they want to do. Like I said, not an excuse to let it happen, but it's what allows people to still create something amazing under those circumstances.
Yeah, the whole find your passion. Actually, one of our university's taglines, well, the business school now more than in the university, was find your passion. And we went through a period of getting a bit of pushback about it. Some people would say find your passion is terrible advice, and and that comes from kind of two places. One is like, don't make the thing you learn. Like, it's the same thing about never start your business with friends. You want friends as friends, so keep them as friends. So, and then like start a business with people who have, different skills to you, because those are the best people to set up businesses with, whether you've complementary skills rather than competing ones. But, there's this thing that find your passion is like accounting software isn't particularly passionate, but it's very well paid,
Yeah.
So I always kind of wonder about that.
That's a choice people have to make. The most valuable thing any of us have is our time. So how do you want to spend yours? I don't, and I never did want to spend my time earning a nice paycheck doing something that bored me to tears.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't think that I would look back at the end of my life and feel like it was well lived.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really for the individual to decide. But I find that my time is far too valuable not to pursue my passions.
Sure. Yeah. No, I don't know sort of what the answer is. I help people get jobs that they're totally unsuitable for, but I say, look, if this is what you want, I will help you do it, and maybe finding it, when you get there, you will then realize that it's not what you wanted, and
I'm sure as an educator that sometimes you find that leading people down a path to discover their own answers is more effective than telling them what the answer is.
Yeah, in fact, that's the kind of
It takes longer.
That's the holy grail. Look,
yeah.
all education now is teaching people to ask questions, you
Right.
know, and it's all, you know, from a, you know, I grew up, you know, sort of like the only place the information was available was out of the mouth of the professor or in the library, you know, like it just wasn't so easy to get hold of. So you genuinely did have to listen to what the guy was saying, you know, whereas as a, you know, I'm telling you about a theory, you can probably get a YouTube video of the guy who came up with the theory explaining it as well, you know, so it isn't, you have to try and perform, the curation is as much important as other stuff.
Right.
And you wanted to, you know, I'm always conscious of like not getting to, you know, getting to the end and forgetting, but I just want to talk a bit about like the beauty of creation and the beauty of film and the beauty of stuff like that. You know, I want to have a kind of a like, I mean, you know, films that have moved you, you know, creative things that have moved you, pieces of art that have moved you. I mean, you know, you must have that to do what you do.
100%. I'm moved by all of it. I'm enthusiastic about all of it.
So the beauty of art, you know, and I think, you know, a lot of people don't have art in their lives. You know, they don't have a piece of music that can move them.
Yeah.
Things like that. And you clearly have. So can you just tell me about pieces of art or creative things that have moved you?
I think that the commonality for all of it, for me, that I've come to realize is the same reason, like the reason I enjoy going to an art gallery is the same reason I like going to a concert, is actually the same reason I like going to watch professional sports. I've come to realize that I just really appreciate seeing people be great at the thing that they are interested in. I find it just hugely rewarding as a fan of human achievement.
You know, there's a professor in IE, and he near Hindi is his name, and he tries to talk about understanding business through art, and you know, a lot of the students don't really get it, you know, because you know, and some of it is to do with the older you get, having kids, you know, stuff like that. But I think it's really important to sort of like, I want people not just to be in happy marriages, but to absolutely love the person they're married to. You know, I want them to, as you say, to have, you know, like whatever the, you know, the San Francisco Giants winning the World Series, you know, or something like that. You know, I want people to like, you know, we have it in Madrid, you know, like the, you know, the value. I mean, you have Real Madrid, the football team, sort of almost win every year, right? And then you have Atleti to win just once, you know, and it was worth the pain of the 18 years to win just once, you know. And so I talk with a lot of entrepreneurs who have a lot of money, and the reason they have a lot of money is because they weren't interested in anything, and that allowed them to focus. And now that they have money, they don't know what to do with themselves, and a lot of them just kind of start another company out of like, this is sort of what I do.
Maybe that is their passion.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're going to press you a little on, you talked about sports. So tell me about your team and who do you follow and like, you know, do you, well, like, you know, have you seen Steph Curry hit 3-pointers and, you know, that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, I'm a Bay Area guy.
Yeah.
So that's where I was born and raised. So I'm a huge Warriors fan. I have raised my son a Warriors fan, so that's a thing that we do together. 49ers were my football team. The Oakland A's, RIP, were my baseball team, but now they are no more.
Yeah. I when I worked in San Francisco, I actually met Joe Montana.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. It was, as you can imagine, not the day he came to the office. I was working for a company called Franklin Templeton. I don't know when you know the guy. There was no work done the day he came to the office, you know.
Yeah.
But I was also there when they cut him, you know.
Yeah.
And they brought in Steve Young, and
Yeah.
he went to Kansas City, you know.
I used to think no one would ever surpass Joe Montana in terms of like Bay Area sports culture as a singular figure, but maybe Steph Curry has. I don't know.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And you are the guy to answer this. You know, there's that video of him making consecutive 3-pointers.
Sure.
Is that did a guy like you make that?
Did a visual effect?
Yes.
No, he's really that good. I've seen it in person.
Yeah. But I mean, how does it feel to you, like when they win and stuff like that, and the Splash Brothers, and I mean, it just like, does that like literally send you home happy, or And then, there's this thing they always say that like when the sports team of a town wins, that like the cars are better made, and that it has a thing that passes on to the town, and that's why it's so important.
It is important as long as they don't trash the factory in the celebration after the game.
I hadn't really thought about that. So and then like movies that make you cry and stuff like that. Like what are the hidden gems? I mean, what are the things that underappreciated movies?
Well, I'll give you two that I was obsessed with that definitely were instrumental into me being in the line of work that I am now. I have to tell a little bit of a backstory around it, but I'll try to make it quick. When my brother and I were young, and VCRs were becoming a thing, you might remember there was VHS,
and
Betamax, and VHS was the better consumer option. It was cheaper. They were ubiquitous. Betamax was much higher quality.
Yes.
So my father was a professional photographer. He was really concerned by image quality. Yeah. He bought a Betamax. And that meant that we didn't have a lot of options on a weekend.
But the one movie you had was...
We had a tape.
Yeah.
It had 2 films on it. It had Big Trouble in Little China, which is John Carpenter film starring Kurt Russell, which I love. And it had RoboCop, the original RoboCop.
Okay.
And so I probably watched both of those movies at least once a week, to the point where my brother and I had, could recognize every extra in Big Trouble in Little China and name how many times they died in different scenes, and so on and so forth. But I really loved all of John Carpenter's stuff. Was big into Paul Verhoeven too. It just that sort of twist on action and science fiction, some comedy mixed in, and just some shocking elements was definitely something I really enjoyed.
John Carpenter did some of that, like the horror movies as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think I love Big Trouble in Little China. The other one that I really, really like is They Live.
Okay.
Which I always, when I saw The Matrix for the first time, just it made me think of They Live over and over. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I haven't seen it now.
Yeah, it's the premise is there's an alien race that is essentially running everything, but you can't tell that they're running everything, and you can't tell that they're there. But if you put on a special pair of glasses,
okay, I see.
Now you see the world for what it is. You see the alien monsters. And all of the billboards that just look like innocuous advertisements actually say, obey, reproduce, consume, these sort of commands for how to live your life. But that was one of my favorites, and I sort of see it reflected in a lot of modern stories.
I grew up in the west of Ireland, and we had TV, basically one TV channel for a while that was only on for half of the day. I tell my kids, there was a time when you literally pressed the button and nothing came out, So the movie that we had was brought over by our American cousins. It was Eddie Murphy, Delirious, And I watched that thing so many times. And then there was also Richard Pryor, Live and Dangerous.
So, all of us kids watched all of that.
And that had a huge influence on me. And then I see kind of the way people look at Eddie Murphy now, And there's a magnificent...
Did you watch the 50th anniversary?
Yes, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. Yeah, that's where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
And they said something that was usually that, because he's becoming a cliche, he's got all these kids, and, he's sort of he did all these kind of goofy movies and things like that. But there was a line that he said that if it wasn't for him, Tina Fey would still be a middle school teacher. That he was the guy that kind of he was the guy that brought the edge to it, And it's pretty remarkable. You're not buying that at all.
Tina Fey is so talented. I think she would have found a way.
But you know,
Yeah. But I agree that I agree that what he did in particular for Saturday Night Live was transformative for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he talked about anyway, I feel like I have to defend myself on my deep, but the point I mean, there's probably a middle school teacher in Wisconsin who's super funny, you meet these people all the time, and not to say, I mean, Mean Girls is one of my favorite movies, I wouldn't have a bad word said against Tina Fey, and she's on Late Night with Craig. Have you seen any of those episodes? Like the tension between the two of them, you know?
Well, look, all art is an evolution of
Yeah.
what became previously.
Yeah.
And there's, I think, the famous quote that all art is theft.
Yeah.
I would say that all art is evolution with, perhaps elements of theft. What is evolution?
My favorite part of that is that quote is actually a theft itself.
There you go.
It's Steve Jobs attributed it to Pablo Picasso, when actually it was Leonardo who said it originally.
Much earlier.
So yeah, that's my favorite part. But you encourage theft. It's just
Let's call it inspiration.
Yes. Well, it's very. I mean, I started 6 businesses, and I think 4 of them were clones. Seeing something and then kind of doing it. But it's interesting. And how about renewal then? Like, how do you renew yourself? Because a big theme of entrepreneurs is that, some people say creatively, like you drop off after some people say it's your 30s,
Yeah.
This, I think Bob Dylan or, they have all these kind of stuff. You get boxers who kind of go, it's hard to go to the edge when you're sleeping in silk sheets, and Bob Dylan, did he do anything creatively after, I won't go back that Blood on the Tracks or something, but you have that kind of thing. So, and also people creatives themselves wonder, are they losing their edge,
Right.
So how do you renew yourself creatively?
Things don't stay static. They progress, they change, they evolve. You have to remain really, really curious about all of it and excited about all of it. There's a lot of people in a lot of sectors who feel very threatened by artificial intelligence. I think the key is to remain eternally curious, and curious about that, and curious about what can it do for you.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be some innovation that comes along and presents an opportunity for growth or change.
Yeah.
And I think what's helped us to keep from getting burned out and to keep evolving and growing is to remain really, really curious about the world around us.
So who's left to work with? Who do you want to work with? If I could, magically get you a slot, is there someone you really want to work with?
Oh, man.
This is the typical thing I ask my students, because what I do for them is to say, and then why not? Call him kind of, let's do him. Like,
yeah.
But, who's doing the most creative work? Who's doing the best creative work now?
I'm trying to think, what's the last thing I saw where I went like, oh man, I really wish that I worked on that project.
Yeah. Well, I guess on the
I'll go back. I'll go back to my youth, and I'll say that I always wished that I'd had the opportunity to work for John Carpenter, but I never did.
Yeah. There's cool jobs out there. It's like every time I hear someone going to work for a consulting company, I kind of go like, do you not want to make movies? Like Netflix employs 25,000 people in Madrid. There's like 7 stages. And they're doing a whole pile of stuff. And what's a consulting company counting every third, packet of toilet paper?
Well, for me, when I graduated from school, I went to work in Web 1.0.
Yeah.
And I got a really good job, and then I got a better job and a better job. And it was a good company with good people, but my job was boring me to death.
Yeah.
It was all in spreadsheets and numbers and operations, and I just really didn't like it much. And I really always wanted to get into film, so I left to pursue that.
Yeah.
So that's back to that, follow your passion thing. Like,
but I guess you were in California, which is, the Northern California, admittedly, but it's still California.
It is still California. That's true.
But yeah, you don't hear enough of that about people kind of following their dreams. Like, how do I get to Hollywood? Hollywood was built by immigrants. That was the basis of it.
I will say that I feel like the younger generation coming up now seems to have been raised in a way that they are more aware of self and more understanding of what makes them happy. They've, I think, been taught to value that more, as opposed to just valuing going and grinding away at some job, because that's how you earn a living. So I have a lot of hope for this generation in terms of pursuing their passions, because I feel like I'm seeing it displayed more often than maybe even my generation.
Okay, that's quite a hopeful message then.
It is.
You know?
I I think that it can make the workplace challenging at times for them, where there are expectations for you to do something for the greater good, not just for yourself. But I think when you are working with younger people who are plugged into their passions, they're really confident in what makes them tick, and they have an understanding of what makes them tick.
I mean,
which is
it isn't their fault. They are that way as a reaction to another thing.
Well, I'm not trying to blame anyone for anything, but I guess my point being that I really admire that they seem more self-aware of what where their happiness lies, and I feel like they're more likely to pursue it as a result. Which is really great.
And eventually they will become the mainstream, and that will become that will become the way things are. You and I mightn't be around at that time, but it's that's something. Young people. I mean, I say this to people, like, I'm evaluated by young people. I teach classes and they give me a number. And they, and there's a sort of like. And I'm okay with that, and that's, but it is quite interesting how they don't care how many companies I've started. They don't care about anything else. What mountains I've climbed, none of that, it's all like, did this guy deliver for me? And I guess, it is interesting when you speak to people that work for large companies. Like, there are even people who build products for young people and know almost nothing about young people, and that kind of, and they call me to tell them, okay, like, why are young people not drinking Coca-Cola? Because it's sugared water, or something like that. But it's interesting. Anyway, we're near the end of time, and I just do want to. I always ask people, like, for a recommendation. I know you've mentioned John Carpenter, and I know you've mentioned. I guess you mentioned but other kind of books, like, I guess if you read the Ed Catmull book on Pixar and those kind of things, is there anything that it's called Creativity Inc., I think? It's a very common kind of.
It's a good one.
Yeah. But like, I'm kind of other books you would recommend, or documentaries or films or anything kind of creative that you think people could go.
I actually recommend something different. Yeah. If you want to get into a creative industry, then you can't wait for an opportunity. You can't wait for somebody to give you the opportunity to start creating.
Yeah.
You have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
I've met several people where they tell me, oh, I want to be a director.
Just go shoot a movie.
Well, exactly. Yeah. But I say, well, what are you working on right now? Well, nothing. I have a job. And I'm like, well, what do you do in your free time? Well, I like to play Dungeons and Dragons, or I like to do this, or I like to do that. I'm like, well, how are you going to be a director? And they're like, well, I'm applying for jobs and I'm doing this. I'm like, that's not how you become a director. You become a director, you go out and you start directing.
Yeah.
So my advice to people who want to be in immersive technology or in any creative endeavor is
get your hands dirty with the
immediately and frequently and totally. Just, you have to be making stuff all the time, because that is what's going to get you to where you want to go. People will discover you through that.
Yeah.
You can't read or documentary or apply for jobs without also having that component. You will never get there.
Yeah, there's this thing about the difference between critics and artists, that critics discuss form and function.
Yeah.
And artists discuss where to get cheap turpentine.
Yeah.
Like they're, in the same way that they're like, where's a good place with light?
I'd say reading the books is a good way to learn the rules.
Yeah.
But until you go do it and learn which rules it's okay to break, and how you're going to need to break them to accomplish what you need to accomplish, you haven't really learned anything.
Okay. Well, that's such an important message. Is that the right way to finish the podcast?
Great. All right.
Which is beautiful. Let's go. So I always like to thank you for your time. Thank you for showing up, and thanks for
having me.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I think it's important that that you enjoy the conversations as well. And I certainly have enjoyed it. And I always finish by welcoming everyone to Madrid, and hopefully you have to kind of. It's a bit like the golf majors or something. You have to come to all of the South Summit, not just the one here in Porto Alegre, but also the one. We'll We'll find a Madrid equivalent of your Brazilian link up, and try and drag you into it. So, super, thank you very much. Congratulations on everything you've done, and all the best. This is Professor Joe Haslam again, just signing off to thank you for listening to the podcast. They're available on Amazon, they're available on Spotify, they're available on Apple, and they're available on iVoox. Please talk to your friends about them. Tell us what you liked and recommend them. We want to get these ideas spread, and they're a very important part of the community we're trying to build here at IE University. So thank you for listening to Venture Ahead.